fuck? It's...
Hello, my name is Philip Bloom and I hope you're sitting comfortably because yes, it's that time again, camera review time, this time the Digital Bolex D16. A lot of you watching this know just how long it takes me to get my camera reviews done. I used to be able to get them done a lot quicker, but time is very difficult to find, and these are done in my free time because these aren't paid by anybody, so these are completely funded by myself. But in a way it actually works quite well because I don't have that much time. I do take my time to get them done, and I get to really experience a camera much more than putting a camera review out, you know, the next day or the day after. I really get to use the camera and know the camera. I think that is absolutely key to a really solid camera review. Thankfully, instead of looking at my ugly face for the entire length of this review, I've got loads of footage that I shot with this camera over 2 months, peppered throughout the piece. From my initial stuff in Christmas with my family, which was very difficult because it's very dark in England in the winter, and I didn't have any good low light lenses, through to, I took it to Twickenham, around the corner down by the river, took it to my favourite little area to film just around the corner as well, a different corner, there's one corner there and another corner there, Richmond Lock. I took it to Dubai and I went in a helicopter with it, I went on a train with it, I went into the desert with it, I went up to the world's tallest building with it, loads of stuff with it, and I took it to Miami and I took it to the Everglades and I took it down to Miami Beach. So thankfully, loads of lovely footage to look at. Kickstarter has revolutionised the way we do things in terms of certainly getting films funded, but especially getting products made. Some amazing things have come out of Kickstarter, and in March 2012 I was pointed in the direction of a new Kickstarter by the people behind Digital Bolex. That's Joe and Al, and I read the email and was like, oh, Bolex? How are Bolex making a digital camera? Looked it up, read all about it, absolutely fascinated, completely skeptical. because it came out of nowhere. And this is a big name when it comes to film cameras. And for it to be on Kickstarter associated with it and it to be a digital camera was very surprising. So I did a bit of digging and found very little information at all, which of course made me worried, a bit more skeptical than I was beforehand. But a nice long phone conversation with Joannell cleared a lot of things up about this camera. The name Bolex has been licensed by Joannell for their camera. Now these guys don't have any experience or background in making cameras, which was a concern, but they do know what they like. Especially they love film and they love Super 16. They wanted a digital equivalent to that now that film is, well, unfortunately it is officially dead, but we still love film. Film is the benchmark what we want our things to look like. Super 16 though is very interesting. It is a nice format and it is still used in certain productions and very much used in film schools. But in professional productions these days, it is Super 35mm is the absolute standard. So bravely, some may say foolishly, I decided to pony up $3,500 and back their project. I wanted to see this camera, but it is a risk. And after putting it on my blog, I was concerned for anybody who wanted to follow what I did, because I don't want people to be as foolish, potentially foolish as me, as long as you go into this knowing the risks involved when you back a Kickstarter project. Because there's a lot of them, we all know about them. The biggest problem is there's no actual guarantee you'll get what you've paid for, unfortunately. The day before the Kickstarter campaign ended, I hovered over the cancel button. I wavered, I'm sorry guys. It's just one of those things. But I didn't, I stuck with it and I waited. And I waited. And I waited. And there was no sign of the camera. I think the initial release was supposed to be at the end of 2012. That was never going to happen. Come on, these guys are making a camera with no experience, and the only thing they had to show at that point was just a box with a sensor and a circuit board inside, as far as I know. So the Digital Bolex guys partnered up with a company in Toronto to get the camera made. And one of the cool things is through their forum on the website, they asked the customers what they wanted. So the specs started to change through the development of the actual camera, down to what the users wanted. I saw a prototype at NAB in 2013, and on Christmas Eve, you couldn't have asked for a more apt time to receive something like this. It arrived. Here it is, serial number 2 of the D16. Let's talk about specs. We have a Super 16mm sensor. It is small, especially in today's very much large sensor dominated market. Super 16, not many cameras out there. We've got the Iconoscope and of course now the pocket camera from Blackmagic. At the moment the camera only records RAW, Cinema DNG, which of course we've got quite used to recently. There are plans to put actual codecs compressed format in there, but not as of yet. This is not a low light camera. The optimum setting is actually 200. Now you can put into 400, but 200 is where it performs best. They are going to put in an ISO 800 too, but 200. This is not a low light camera.
Open my eyes, had a dream last night that both my arms were broken. Evening time, help me now, hold me down. I feel my world is torn. Spiral down on my lover, can't let go. Something's wrong, make my way through the century as I slowly turn to house dust. Tumbling down. The rain comes down like a victory in sheets of shining memory, over and over, circling around.
Looking at the camera itself, you can see it has this grip. Now the grip is actually kind of cool. It does come off though. You don't have to have the grip on. When you put it on the tripod, you do take it off and you put on a plate. It is a retro thing. It is a thing of nostalgia more than anything. But when you're shooting with it, the form factor is actually quite nice, especially when you put on the Zacuto EVF on the side. Now, when you don't, you try and use a screen, it's not so good because the screen only goes up that much. That's not a lot, really. I don't quite understand why it goes up almost no amount at all. And it's a very low resolution screen, so you don't really use it to shoot. You can't shoot with it because it is just not good enough. And here it is with the Zacuto EVF on it, and my slightly misguided idea of spraying the Junior Silver to give it a sort of two-tone matching. It's a lovely tight little rig, and you get past the issue of that screen. In fact, it's an absolute pleasure shooting like this, and it feels exactly the right place to have the actual viewfinder. This makes the camera a pleasure to shoot with. And with the trigger, when you hold it down, it actually records and stops when you let go. I know some people are already scoffing, going, what's the point of that? It's actually quite nice. It's a nice way of shooting. But you don't have to shoot that way. There is a traditional record method on the top here if you just want to do a stop and a start. It has two proper XLR inputs, which actually can power Phantom, which is really nice to have a camera with really good audio again, because it is so rare.
Oh, it's not set to auto. Hold on. There we go. Gotta get it in auto mode. Inshallah, this works.
Two vehicles stopped it, and then we got ourselves in trouble once we stopped it. Or I got myself in trouble. God, fucking Philip Wood.
I think we just dug a hole.
Release that one.
To put them underneath this one to let it back
If I can
up
just
a
back
little
up
bit.
another, if I can back
We can
up.
just push it like.
Yeah, if I can get weight on the front tires. This is why you don't want to get dug in times fast. More cameramen than rescuers. So 5 guys push.
Yeah, and I will try like this. It's better. That wheel looks fucked up too. It's twisted more than it should.
They seem like a really good group of guys, really come together here. I mean, this is what Time Fest is about. You know, it's like companionship, brotherhood,
Digging sand.
and fixing Vince's mistakes. I mean, that's, again, you gotta have, like someone said, you gotta have conflict. What's my shirt on? My shirt!
This is good conflict.
Now this has a SSD inside, a 1/2 terabyte. You can get a 256 gigabyte one. Don't get the 1/2 terabyte. You do have 2 slots for compact flash cards, but that's purely for offloading onto. You can't record onto them. I don't know if there's any plans to or not. I don't think so. But you can use USB 3 to offload. You can get a fair amount on the old 1/2 terabyte. And it's also internal battery as well. Internal battery, internal recording. 2 things which aren't ideal at all. In practice, can you work that way? Yes, it's not ideal. Bert here is not a fan of internal recording or internal batteries, are you, Bert? But it lasts about 4 hours, the internal batteries. It's not too bad. If you get it to like an AC when you're pausing, it lasts a bit longer. But you can always use external power like this Switchtronics device here. You get it for Blackmagic and everything. It's the same battery, it's just a different end and a different connector. So you can get away with it. Actually, for every time I've used the camera, I've actually never run out of juice. But then again, I've never used it on an actual paid gig. As Percy replaces Bert, let's talk about the lens mount. As I unscrew it, you'll see C-mount. You can see the small sensor there. You screw it back on, and it's a bit of a faff. I don't like this because it doesn't give me a positive lock, but this is what we're used to. Hey, that's where PL came from, a positive lock. That's why it was introduced. This has no positive lock, it's just a screw. Now, it's not bad. I have to say it's not bad because you can get loads of different, quite affordable glass on eBay and other secondhand places. You just have to do a bit of looking and really do some research because not all C-mounts are going to cover that Super 16 sensor. Some are designed for 16mm and some are designed for 8mm. You can have a very, very, very unusable lens. There's lots out there though. Just remember though, you're going to have to multiply that focal length by around 3 times given the equivalent field of view that you get on a full frame camera. It's quite a hell of a multiplication 3 times. So this one here, which is a 25mm, it's Fujinon. It's a Fujinon 25mm and it is a 0.85, it's f/0.85 25mm. Field of view of around 75mm. Now, it may be 0.85 for this. Don't expect to get amazing shallow depth of field and low light capability that you would if it was a 0.85 on a Super 35 or larger. It's nothing like it. But you are going to need fast glass because the camera is not a low light camera. Did I mention that? It's not a low light camera. This 10mm Bell Ingenue, what is it? It's an f1.8. This is a really good example. It's explain the whole C-mount system to you. This is retrofocus. The way you get focus is you actually unscrew it to get closer focus and screw it back on to get back to infinity, which is of course a little bit scary because the closer you want to get, there is always a danger of it dropping off. So make sure you don't let go of the lens. This is a really nice lens that I bought off eBay. This is a Schneider Optics Xenon 0.95 f-stop 25mm. It's a beautiful lens, really lovely and smooth, nice image, even wide open, it's pretty damn good. This isn't that cheap though. If you want to get the cheaper type stuff, you're really going to have to go onto eBay every single day and check, and find and see what there is. Things pop up all the time. You can get different adapters for C-mounts. You can get, well, here's a PL adapter, and you've got there's a Canon and a Nikon adapter. Now, you can't get a Micro Four Thirds adapter for it because of the flange distance. It does not technically work. Thankfully, the lens mount is removable, and they're bringing out a Micro Four Thirds dedicated mount. The really cool thing about that, apart from of course being able to use Micro Four Thirds glass like the Voigtlander stuff, is really down to 2 companies we can thank for that. Blackmagic and Metabones. The Speed Booster, of course. The speed booster for the Blackmagic Pocket cinema camera, God, it's such a mouthful, is an amazing device. It transformed that camera enormously. The field of view changed drastically. Suddenly gave us a much larger looking sensor and much better sensitivity with a gaining of light, which really this camera absolutely needs, because I don't know if I told you this before, but it's not a low light camera. Now, I haven't tested it, so this is all me just saying it's going to be much better. But I have been told by Joe from Digital Bolex, who has tested it, the speed booster that is, with the Bolex, it works and it works really well. I really want to see that because I don't know if I told you this camera is not a low light camera. The crank on the side can be programmed for different things. I have it set to shutter speed. You can change shutter speed. It's a little bit plasticky and a little bit gimmicky. And this one here, I use this for volume on the headphones. Again, a little bit plasticky. This camera is obviously one of the first off the production line, so it's going to go back in and be improved upon. I am effectively, I am an early adopter. I'm always an early adopter. I always buy things way too early, but that's comes with the nature of the job, I guess. I get excited by technology. Really, you should always wait for these things. Wait for somebody else to do a review for you. Wait for other users to get past all the little issues, and then the camera comes out and it's a lot better. Why don't I do that? Personally, there's no SDI in the camera. I'm afraid it's only full-size HDMI. At least it's not mini or micro. What do you think? Is that okay? Very useful for using with the Zacuto EVF. I guess you could also plug it into, say, a Ninja or something like that and use it as an external recorder if you don't want to shoot RAW. Can I help you? If you look at the negatives of the camera, and they are negatives for the most part, Super 16 is arguably negative. It's obviously a known fact from the camera, so when you buy it, you know that's a size sensor. But what comes with it is, of course, the ability or lack of ability to get a shallow depth of field. Now, for me, that is obviously going to be a negative, but I knew that getting into the camera. The low light sensitivity, or the lack of it, is a problem. The fact the screen is terrible, which means I do have to mount a Zacuto EVF on there, which actually isn't too bad. Internal battery, internal recording, only RAW. Despite all of these problems, I still am shooting with it. I am enjoying to shoot with it. When I do camera reviews, it is of course for you guys, but the camera choice is actually going to be cameras which interest me. Of course it does, otherwise why would I bother doing it? Because it is my free time. Now, the Bolex interests me, but what is the use of it in the real world? Why would you be interested in it? And that's something that I've been wrestling with since I got the camera 2 months ago. And I still quite haven't nailed down exactly what it is. I just don't see myself using this camera on a professional job. It doesn't make any sense for me, as I have other cameras which outperform it in every single way. For documentaries, this is not the right tool. There's much better cameras out there for documentaries, ones that can work in available light. This one, of course, cannot do that very well unless there's a lot of available light. Certainly not weddings, because available light again, I don't know. I'm trying to think of genres where it would fit specifically in. It can definitely work as a replacement for Super 16mm film cameras in film schools, because you're going to still need to learn to light because of the sensitivity of the camera. Trying to figure out where the digital Bolex fits into the market is a really tricky thing. Loads of cameras, it's very obvious what they're for. The C300 was obviously going to be a fantastic documentary camera. The F55, which is the camera filming me on now, is a powerhouse of a camera that can do so many different things, from high-end cinema down to documentary work and events quite easily, because it's a very good low-light camera, shoots 4K internally, global shutter, blah, 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 all that sort of stuff, which is wonderful, but obviously a very expensive camera. There's DSLRs if you want to go down the lower budget route. If you want to shoot RAW on a budget, of course, you've got the Blackmagic cameras. If you want a Super 16 one, you've got the very affordable on its own, the Pocket camera. Of course, you have to add on the cost of the cards and the batteries and other peripherals. So there's loads of different cameras on the market, and that's where it has to find its place, and it's a very difficult place to find. Joe&L have done a wonderful job in making this camera very appealing. It obviously has a love it or loathe it look to it, one that I love. Everything that comes with it is just really nice, from the actual artwork that came with it, to the website, to the packaging. The packaging is beautiful. And the bags, I mean, look, I'm a man bag guy, so come on. But look, we have this beautiful bag here, which you can put the camera in, and we can take a little bit of lenses in there and stuff. This is a beautiful bag. And if you need something bigger, you have their backpack. You know, this is a really lovely product. They've done a fantastic job in getting this stuff made, and made really, really well. This is not going to be sort of take it out into the Amazon type stuff. But then again, that's not what this camera is it? The look of that image, that organic feel, and the global shutter combined with the RAW, the most important parts of this camera by far. Oh, we mustn't forget just how good the audio is too. Proper audio is wonderful to have in a camera. It's so often forgotten. These are the things which are the biggest selling points of the camera. The rest of it, it's, you know, the bags, the look, the feel. It is superficial, of course it is. It's nowhere near as important as the other things. Now, we're still early days here with firmware to be improved, but from what I've got from it so far, I'm actually really loving what I'm getting. It's a very organic looking image. You know, it is. It looks very filmic. Hard to define what that actually is, but it's something about the look of the camera which is a very Super 16mm look, which is of course exactly what they were after. If you're doing any fast moving sort of action type filming, then a global shutter in a camera is actually really quite essential. And there are cameras out there now which have them. There's not that many, but there are CMOS cameras with global shutters. Now this has a CCD, so it has a global shutter. There's no rolling shutter, there's no skewing or anything like that. So when you do film with it, you are not going to get that horrible jello effect, which itself is a big plus. The downside with CCDs, well, apart from low light sensitivity, is pointing directly into very bright light sources, specifically the sun. This camera, currently in its firmware version, which is very early, has real problems with pointing at the sun. The whole image can tear apart. Now this will be improved with future firmware updates, but if you're a big fan of shooting sunsets, sunrises and stuff like that, this is not going to be the camera for you. But action-packed moving around, great.
Sun waits for no one. Sun waits for no one.
But can you wait for me to get the focus right? There you go, there you go. Try that again.
The sun waits for nobody. Nobody.
I don't know what for, not with that you don't.
Worst gas of history. Yellow air comes from his jeans, kills the entire lot. He's just laughing like that.
Now you know I feel like these airplanes
This is pretty impressive, Phil, huh?
We're on top of the tallest building in the world, and there's a whole bunch of time lapses that are just around, and we're all shooting in basically every single direction there is. It's pretty awesome. About time lapse, what's really cool is like you're basically compressing time, and so you're capturing all the beauty and just put it down into basically its essence. I think you need to have a certain amount of patience, but I think you need to just really enjoy what you're doing, and you need to enjoy being in those locations and capturing what you can get. You know, you never quite know if you captured what you hoped you would until you're sitting on the computer and you're kind of playing it back. And it's always like this kind of, you know, you're nervous about it, but you hope you did a good job, and it's always a good feeling when you captured what you hoped for.
Oh, beauty, and you know it gets easier with time. There's 4 easy steps to create things. Oh, beauty, and you know it gets easier with time.
What is the aim of that, Keith?
Well, I just did a quick test stand in terms of shutter speed. So there's sort of 2 sort of styles that work well with tilt shift, and one is when you draw the exposure out and you really create a really fast sensation of movement. And with those sort of shots, I'll typically do focal changes and focal waves because I'm not too worried about the movement of the cars and the buses and the trucks in the focal plane. But then the faster shots are really just to show detail. So what I try and do by really sharpening up the shutter speed and increasing the frame rate to something like between 5 and 10 frames per second is you really get an incredible feeling of every single car, and you can sort of imagine every single person on the freeway much better than you can with normal time lapse where you see a lot of fluid motion.
How much damage does this do to the camera?
It does quite a bit, and I think I've probably broken some records, and I think I've broken between 8 and 10 shutters on Nikon D3 and D4 camera bodies. But it's really not that big a deal. I mean, the shutters can be replaced for a couple $100, and they usually do a pretty good job of fixing the motor drive when they do that. and get the shots and worry about the camera later on.
It's not a lot of money for a great shot, is it?
It's not a lot, is it? Yeah. First time in Dubai, and we're up in a helicopter this morning, and now we're sort of on top of the world up on the Burj, and it's a pretty great experience. We're here with some of the best photographers in the world, and it's just it's a pleasure to be part of it.
So you're looking like you're a lot better. You seem much better.
Forrest is doing well.
Glad to see you recovered.
Yeah. What the fuck, dude? I've never had like 4 cameras.
You're
on
the
cameras.
center of attention, Flores.
Hey Sean, so is there a shot you're trying to get right now in particular?
Yeah, I think I'm just gonna shoot the sunset. Looks like it's going down. The clouds are looking bitchin'. Got some nice view of these, buildings, little silhouettes of the Khalifa or Burj Al Arab in the distance. Looks cool. Yeah, and that's my second time up here, or maybe third time actually. It's a great spot. I mean, you get such a view of the city around here. It's amazing looking that way, looking that way, and yeah, it's awesome.
Clouds are moving fast. Gonna work fast. I'm doing a panorama, 160 degree. There's no room for 180. So, and doing 3 exposure per shot to preserve the dynamic range. I'll just shoot manual, try to find settings that sort of preserve some detail in the sun and some in the shadow. Well, I stitch it in PTGI or AP Auto Panorama Gigapixel and post that online to my friends and let them know I've been in Dubai. It's the tallest building in the world.
You don't put it on Instagram, do you?
I will this time.
Me, I'm doing a little HDR sequence from the
Time lapse?
Khalifa. Oh yeah, a little time lapse.
Have you been up here before?
No, I've never been up here before. I've been in the building, but not up here. It's a whole other experience. It's pretty awesome.
And what are you shooting with?
This is a Mark III, and I have a Nikon 14-24 on there with a little adapter, photodiox, and pretty standard setup for me now for architecture.
And why have you gone HDR?
I'm shooting straight in the sun. I figured I'd try and get some more depth to it. We'll see what happens.
Sending a rig, out over this kind of at this kind of height and sending it out far, but like we were talking about, you'd want massive counterweight and a really super strong rail. I mean, it would be a jaw dropper, that's for sure. For me, one of the coolest things about shooting is it takes me back to that place. I don't know, it's something about it. If I look at this footage later on, it's gonna instantly transform me back to this place when we were shooting. Epic selfies.
Can I get in this selfie?
Yeah, come on, get in here. Ready?
Come on, Lou.
We gotta all
Epic
do this
selfies.
selfie. Ready? 1, 2, and there we go. Perfecto.
Let's see.
I was actually looking at my own camera, which is terrible. It kind of defeats the purpose of a selfie.
The clouds, Phil?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's the first time I've seen them since I've been here. Yeah, blue skies are great, for a few days at a time. But I don't know, when I go back home, it's like, as soon as I get out of Dubai, it's kind of a shocker to me that, like this we would celebrate if there's clouds like this. And in LA, this is like every day.
It's pretty vast looking. It's pretty cool. Yeah, it's. I've been on the Empire State Building, which feels similar, but a lot busier around you than here. And here still feels very nascent. This trip for me is about friends and hanging out and relaxing. That being said, I got a few nice pictures today, and it made me remind myself of how much I love flying and taking aerial photographs. So I definitely want to come back, and there's something very attractive about photographing the tallest building in the world for sure. They freeze time, stills exist as long as you want them to, or as short as you want to. As film is a sequence of shots that have a determined length and require a bit of a different interaction, whereas a still moment is something very special about it. It's like an encapsulated moment in time that never goes away.
This camera really is, for me, much more of a possession than a tool. It's something I want to shoot with than I should be shooting with, because you always should try and shoot with the camera which is going to make your life easiest. But you also want to shoot with a camera that's fun, and shooting with this camera is actually a really fun experience. Absolutely adore shooting with it. And that in itself says a lot. Is it worth $3,500 of a lot? I don't know. I mean, that comes down to you. This is not a mass market camera. This is not a camera that's going to fly off the shelves and replace any camera that's out there right now. It's a very specific thing. It's a very specific market. And it's only when you put it in your hands, and I say this about every single camera that I review, that you should try it first, but this one is specifically, once you put it in your hands and shoot with it, you kind of get it much more. And I've seen it again and again when I pass it to people when they've held it and have gone, wow, this is really nice. And you combine that with the image, you've got a really lovely camera. It's just where it quite fits into the market, I still don't really know. And that's what's so confusing about it. They wanted to see a camera which didn't exist, so they went and got one made. Through crowdfunding and through finding it through the forums, they brought out the D16. Through all its flaws, it still shines through as an amazing example of what can be done. I can't wait to see what Digital Bolex do next. I have no idea what their roadmap is, but as a first camera, this is very impressive. There's loads of things which need to be improved, but it is a very strong camera to start with a lovely, lovely image. And that in itself is one of the most important things out there. That's it for me, but no rest, I'm afraid, because it's Blackmagic time again, the 4K production camera. When will it ever end?
It's pretty amazing how just moving your finger affects your flight in the air.